Pete Golding's on a heater right now after getting 4 transfer portal commits in the first weekend. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. On today's show, we're taking a look at both of the college football semifinals and their lines from FanDuel. Then we will shift our attention over to the Fiesta Bowl and break down the keys to Ole Miss beating the Miami Hurricanes, including what you should be watching for when the Rebels take the field. But first, we're going to start with Ole Miss landing 4 early commitments to kick off the transfer portal window and introduce you to the new Rebels. All of this and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. And a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is, and that is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Rougiette. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. All right, so Thursday night, New Year's night, absolutely magical with Ole Miss winning the Sugar Bowl and getting into the Final Four in the college football playoff with a Fiesta Bowl in their future against the Miami Hurricanes. A truly magical night. I'm pretty fired up about everything that went on. Trinidad Chambliss completely went off. So basically all Ole Miss fans are riding a high right now. They're completely jacked up about how this season is going. And the transfer portal window opened up the Friday after New Year's Day. So just as the Sugar Bowl was ending, the transfer portal window was opening up. And this was the first weekend that you could visit in this transfer portal window cycle. And lots of players visited. I heard stuff of different names over and over, and we're going to break those down over the course of the week. But Ole Miss got 4 commitments out of the weekend, 4 big-time commitments, defensive player commitments, and it shows intent of where Pete Golding wants to go, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's not surprising that defense kind of popped first because the whole staff is there. All of the apparatus is there for the defensive staff, so they were able to get some of those players. They got a edge, they got a cornerback, they got a safety, and they've got a linebacker so far on their list. Now, if you want to look at some of the names that were going on, the first one, Jonathan Maldonado. He wasn't the first commitment that Ole Miss got. That was Jay Crawford, but we'll start with Jonathan Maldonado. He's a 6'6", 233-pound edge out of Nevada. Wolfpack sitting there. He is somebody that has special level talent and a very, very high ceiling. It'll be interesting to see how that looks after he gets high-level Power 4 SEC coaching. Maldonado has a chance to be a special type edge. Now, what does that mean for Prince Will and Mount Yellen? Probably nothing. I think Ole Miss has to act as if everybody's going to be gone and recruit players to replace them regardless. Jonathan Maldonado is a super athlete type lining up on the edge. 6'6", 233 pounds, can really run. His spin move is like outrageously good, but he is a very, very good player and a statement of intent by Pete Golding. Jay Crawford was the first commitment of this recruiting cycle. And if you saw my crossover last night with Zach Blackerby, you get an idea of what they thought of Jay Crawford, calling him things like the most underrated college football player in the country, the best cornerback. He has a chance with an incredibly high ceiling. You didn't dare throw to his side of the field. Does it sound familiar? That sounds like a Trey Amos to me, honestly. And with what is going on and the players that are interested, you start seeing real quick, Auburn, Florida, LSU are three of the programs that Ole Miss is consistently looking at in the transfer portal window. Ole Miss would probably be on one of those transfer portal rosters as well right now, but they're still playing football. And the longer they play football, the more they can get a return on this playoff run as well. Remember, this is the first year that Ole Miss can legitimately recruit to the playoff. Before then, it was all like, hey, Pete Golding would tell people, we can do this. This is what we want to do, but there was no proof of concept. Can it be done at Ole Miss? Well, Ole Miss is 60 minutes away, a win against Miami from being in a national championship game. How that national championship game goes, I don't know. But if you get to that game, it's a 50-50 proposition, and nobody can ever say again that it can't be done at Ole Miss. Nobody. Not even a certain head coach that will not make the playoffs likely. So Ole Miss, Jay Crawford, a huge piece. Him and the edge, Jonathan Maldonado, really big players. Ole Miss picked up another cornerback. I think he's a safety, but he's listed as a cornerback. Sharif Denson, he's 5'11", 170 pounds. He's out of Florida. He played cornerback at Florida. There is a scheme familiarity with Sharif Denson. He is somebody that can go from a Ron Roberts defense directly into a Pete Golding defense, and there's not going to be very much new to learn. Now, there's some slight differences because of Pete Golding's time that he spent with Nick Saban. He probably picked some things up from Nick Saban, but when you look at the totality of the scheme, it's pretty consistent between what Florida was doing and what Ole Miss is doing. Other players are being recruited from Florida, just like other players are being recruited from Auburn right now, including some guys that are on campus at the moment. We'll get into those a little bit later on in the week, potentially. We'll see what's going on there. But Sharif Denson has a chance to be really big in this system. I hate the number 0, by the way. At first, it was really cool that players could wear number 0. Now it's not very cool at all, if we're going to be honest about it. And finally, we get a commitment from a linebacker named Keaton Thomas out of Baylor. He is 6'2", 210 pounds. He's a really, really good football player, and he plays like he is a bundle of energy. He plays the way that Chris Paul played. He plays the way that Andrew Jones plays. You know that style linebacker fits in this defense. Just need a steadying force to play right beside him. But Keaton Thomas, a really good linebacker. But all of those together, Pete Golding was able to basically win the transfer portal in the first weekend. They're number 1 in the transfer portal rankings. Everybody's talking about how Ole Miss is off to a flying start and all of this. Congratulations to Pete Golding, and there's other commitments and other players to come. Heck, there might be more than 4 by the time you watch this. But it is very important that those players, those are very, very high-level, good players, all have a chance to have a role next season. It's a chance to be a very productive defense after what we just saw this year, when this was supposed to be a rebuilding year. And Ole Miss is taking it into the college football playoff semifinals. We'll see. They got Miami. We're going to talk about that in just a second. And then you either have Indiana or Oregon. Ole Miss is in a good spot. Ole Miss is where they want to be. Ole Miss is a good football team. That is one thing that, looking at highlights and things like that, Ole Miss is just a good football, just solid. There's not really any weak links on the field. There's not really any place that you can specifically attack. Everybody likes to joke about Sage Ryan or Wydett Williams and all that. But at this point in the season, you can't do that. In that game against the Georgia Bulldogs, how much did you see Sage Ryan? That's probably because they didn't go that way, didn't make plays off of him. I assume he played. But you don't remember seeing number 3 on the defensive side of the ball. I know Ladarian Clardy, by the way, the true freshman out of Pensacola, played in that game. But I don't remember anything about Sage Ryan. And that lets you know that the secondary is in a much better position than it was in the middle of October timeframe. Really good stuff indeed. So when we come back, let's turn our attention to the Miami Hurricanes and their monster defensive line. We've got the keys to beating the Canes. We're going to talk about that next. Let's talk about something that most men don't want to bring up, but they absolutely should. Stress from work, money, and life, it just doesn't switch off at night. When it shows up at the worst possible time, Rougiette Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rougiette Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both brain and body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters most. Rougiette Ready combines 3 proven ingredients in one mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. You connect with a board-certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average, so you can stay present, confident, and in control when the moment is right. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to and give a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it keeps all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day, so now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Ole Miss with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and even more. All for just $5 per month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemmiss.supercast.com or check the link down in the show notes to learn more. All right, so let's turn the page over to the Miami Hurricanes. Is this Monday morning? We're about 3 days away from the college football playoff semifinals. We're going to talk about keys to this game. We're going to talk about what you need to be watching for. And in the next segment, we're going to go over the lines and all that on the FanDuel stuff, just like we have done all season on Monday. But the keys to this game, this is a pretty simple game. There's a lot of similarities to the Georgia Bulldogs in this game. But the difference is it's not so much you worried about stopping the Miami offense, because I have confidence that Ole Miss will be able to stop the Miami offense. How do you deal with the defensive line that is as talented as Georgia with being able to run the ball, but being much better pass rushers? Ruben Bain, those guys, really good on the edge on both sides. Diego Pounds has not given up a sack at left tackle all season long. Miami got Marcel Reed 7 times in College Station. This pass rush is no joke, and if you do not prepare for it, it will bite you. So tempo will be the key in this game that's supposed to be dominated by that defensive line. You need to get the starters out of the game. You need to wear them out, and you do that by quick passing, getting first downs, and moving the ball down the field. Ole Miss scored 30 points against Oklahoma, whose defensive line is comparable to what you will see against Miami on Thursday. And then Ole Miss put 30 twice on the Georgia Bulldogs. Ole Miss has played good defenses, high-level defenses, and scored points. They need to do that, and the way they do that, and if they can get started early doing that, you can wear out that defensive line. You want them to have 10, 12-yard sprints that are fruitless for most of the night. If you can accomplish that, make them move side to side from time to time, I do think Ole Miss needs to use the jet game a little bit. I do think that Ole Miss needs to figure out a way to move those guys around. And will you see a screen pass? I saw one in the script against Georgia that Ole Miss did not complete, but it was there. Tempo is going to be the key, though, to wearing out this defensive line, just like you did against Penn State in 2023. The Ole Miss front 7 against the Miami run game might be the most important matchup. We talked about the Georgia game being the simplest matchup on the schedule. If you stop the run, you win the game. There's a lot of similarities here. You even have the Zachariah Branch for Georgia and Malachi Toney for Miami. There's a lot of similarities offensively between these two teams. Ole Miss needs to stop the run. They need to leverage the ball. They need to tackle Mark Fletcher, who has excellent contact balance. You need to make sure you're not giving up explosive runs and protect down the field. If you can do that, you're going to be all right. You know exactly what you have with Carson Beck. You are very familiar with Carson Beck after seeing him 2 times with the Georgia Bulldogs in 2024 and 2023. Both of those completely different matchups, by the way. But the front seven handling Miami's offensive line and going up against the run game will be huge. And Miami's offensive line is the best offensive line left in the college football playoff. There will not be a better offensive line that Ole Miss will see than the Miami Hurricanes. So it is going to be imperative that Cam Franklin and William Echoles and Zxavion Harris and Prince Willem Amielin and Suntan Perkins and those guys have big games. You have 9 days after the semifinal to rest. You need to play with elite physicality. We saw against the Georgia Bulldogs, Ole Miss matching the physicality of a Georgia team. That game looked like a war. That was absolutely nuts. But you're going to have to do it again. And we all know that after you play Georgia, you can be worn down just a little bit. I don't know what that is. But the tempo that we talked about in the first key, Miami played one team this season that runs tempo fairly consistently. That was the SMU Mustangs, and SMU won the game. So we'll see exactly what that looks like as well. And also playing clean against a team trying to remove possessions from you, that is going to be paramount. You can't have drive-ending penalties. You can't have turnovers. You have to be careful going up against the Miami Hurricanes or they will bite you. They are a really good team. They lost 2 out of 3 games. One game at home against Louisville. They lost on the road at SMU. They won the game in the middle, but they've been very good at the beginning of the year, and they've been very good at the end of the year. You have to use tempo. You have to execute, and the front seven has to play with elite physicality. We'll see exactly how that goes. Now, what you need to be watching for in the game, what will be the way that the Ole Miss Rebels influences the linebackers for the Miami Hurricanes in this game? And I always talk about when Ole Miss's offense is going well, they are torturing linebackers. I've said that for 4 years. When Ole Miss's offense is going well, they are torturing those guys. And with a defense that has to use a linebacker as a spy, you're automatically giving up a piece of that front seven for whatever's going on. Trinidad might not run the ball, but you can take advantage of that. How you use the other linebacker. Does Miami come out of a too high shell? Can you attack on the outside that way? Because I imagine Miami's going to bump and run. That's just what they do. Really, really good athletes, they are likely going to bump and run. But how will you handle it? There's a lot of free release throws that Ole Miss likes to try and do, but we'll see if Miami plays off, if they play up, and all of that. We'll see the setup that Miami takes and what they want to take away. Kewan Lacy is going to be absolutely monstrous in this game. It's another game where tough yards are going to be on the order of the day, essentially. And again, how will Ole Miss's defensive line handle the Miami running game? Not necessarily yards. I'm not worried about yards. Ole Miss needs to hold them to less than 150 yards. If they do that, they're going to win the game. But how does Ole Miss handle the physicality of the Miami run game? Is it more gap scheme? Is it doing zone stuff? Is it something to where the play action can become more effective? What happens with the Malachi Toney Wildcat package? It gets used from time to time. Malachi was a quarterback in high school. He can throw the ball a little bit. How Ole Miss deals with all of that is going to tell the tale in this game. And finally, play as fast as possible. Try to snap the ball with 25 seconds or more left on the play clock and try and work to get first downs. You need to vary the script. I understand the look with me stuff on the sidelines that they're going to do because Miami's too good of a defensive team to do that. But definitely go on 2 from time to time, vary the snap count so they don't have the elite get off in the game, but also go as fast as you can at times and also do check with me. If you can vary the snap counts, you're going to be in good shape, and as well, tire out the Miami Hurricanes. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's the secret sauce. Tire out that defensive line so you're dealing with second teamers instead of starters. Ole Miss did that against Georgia. If you watched the podcast last week or listened to it, last week was my Mona Lisa of breaking down a game. Everything that I said that Ole Miss needed to do, they did. And it culminated on a 3rd and 5 to win the Sugar Bowl, essentially getting Georgia's defense in exactly what he wanted. Once he got it, he took advantage downfield, and it was all she wrote. That's an amazing game. This game will function similarly. Now, this has a chance to be a very pretty uniform game, okay? The rumor is Ole Miss is going to be wearing a powder blue helmet, powder blue jersey, and white pants. Miami, are they going with the stormtrooper look? They did that against Ohio State. Are they going to wear the orange pants? That's an interesting question as well. We'll see how it goes. In our final segment, we take a look at the lines for the semifinal game from FanDuel and share our thoughts on each one. All of that's coming up next. Fridays already feel different during basketball season. FanDuel is making them even better as well. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans new ways to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, either whether boosts or bonuses or surprises. It's easy to check out the weekly specials before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app to see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That is NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So FanDuel has it set up. There's both the games that are happening. The Fiesta Bowl we'll start out with. Miami is currently a 3.5-point favorite against Ole Miss. The game will be played Thursday night. It is the Fiesta Bowl. It's on ESPN at 7:30 Eastern time. It should be interesting. I like the fact that Miami's favored. It's one of those things that Miami beat Ohio State, so they must be really, really good. It's that type of deal. Mario Cristobal is doing a fantastic job with the Miami program. There's athletes from South Florida all over the field. If you had trouble with Florida and you had trouble with Florida State, you would have trouble with Miami because Miami's a better football team than both of them. In fact, Miami did beat both of them and South Florida for good measure. The game's going to be in Tempe, Arizona. It is going to be partisan Ole Miss fans, I think. I think it will be partisan Ole Miss fans. And with it being a home game, I don't know if -3.5 for Miami is a good line. I like Ole Miss in this game straight up, honestly. Ole Miss has the talent to win the game, and I'm not just saying that because of who I am. But Ole Miss coming there, Trinidad is the best quarterback in the country. Should have won the Heisman and would have won the Heisman potentially if Lane Kiffin didn't make all of November all about him. But a 13-1 Ole Miss team against the Miami Hurricanes, that is really interesting. But Miami is favored. Betting money is about 50-50 at the moment, which is what you want if you don't know, because the juice is going to win out in the end. Oregon's playing Indiana. Indiana's favored by 4.5 points in the Peach Bowl on Friday. Game's also at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. Listen, we all saw what Indiana did to Alabama on New Year's Day. Just completely took them apart. All over. Kurt Cignetti's Mona Lisa, essentially. I always talk about my bragging that happens on last week's breakdown. as Mona Lisa. That was a fantastic game. That's going to go down in the record book and the history books, and every Indiana fans are going to remember that. Indiana beat Oregon earlier this season in Eugene. It is hard to beat a team twice. As we just saw in the Sugar Bowl, it is very hard to beat a team twice. Indiana's favored by 4.5. I think it's going to be Ole Miss versus Oregon in the national championship game in Miami. That is where I am right now. I think Oregon is going to beat Indiana. Ole Miss is going to beat Miami, and you're going to have a battle of the O's in the Hurricane Stadium. Should be really fun, really interesting. I'm curious to see exactly how it goes, but Ole Miss has every opportunity to advance. I think Ole Miss has the better football team than Miami. Miami is better, not elite and by a large margin, but they are probably better on the front on both sides. Ole Miss's offensive line, though, has only given up like 15 sacks over the course of the season, and that's with the trouble at the beginning part of the season. They've been nails towards the end of the year. And then you look at the defensive line, those young guys have just grown up, and Will Echoles is he's turning into Walter Nolan right before our eyes. And then you have Zxavion Harris, who's 6'8", 350 pounds. He's a problem at nose guard. I'm curious to see exactly what it'll look like, but Ole Miss is kind of where they want to be, especially defensively. And kudos for Andrew Jones for kind of unlocking that defense. Very, very good stuff. Thanks for tuning in today to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We will continue to talk about Ole Miss versus Tulane all week, so make sure you subscribe to the show to make sure you get all the episodes. We're on all the social channels, so check that out as well. Did Locked On Ole Miss make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag the National Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you the code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we're going to send you the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure you check out a second listen, whether Locked On College Football or Locked On SEC. On audio, yeah, you heard me. Hotty toddy, everybody. The biggest football game in Ole Miss football program history is in just days. And I cannot, for one, wait for it. It's going to be awesome. Hotty toddy, everybody.